Hello, it's Nancy welcoming you to Gardens Grow. What is happening in the garden on August the 25th? It's been a little while since I put a post on, and the garden is definitely changing. In some parts, she just can't wait to put on her fall wardrobe. I think right now she's just trying it on for size. But I have noticed that there is some subtle changes and some not quite so subtle changes in the color of the plants in the garden. And this gardener has been extremely busy too. As a matter of fact, I've neglected some of the garden. I have tried to keep it watered, but there's lots of things I need to do that I have not gotten around to. This is that beautiful abutilon, but it hasn't bloomed for me. It may wait until I bring it in to bloom. Sometimes that's what it does. Another thing that hasn't bloomed for me this season is this pretty Esperanza that usually has yellow trumpets, and I may be trying to hurry things. It's kind of hard to tell in the fall. The weather is so in between, because even though it's a bit cooler, it's still swelteringly hot in parts of the day, and the plants are still quite struggling, as is this gardener. I'll say that again too. I noticed yesterday, or one day this week anyway, that this pretty little Mexican flame vine has a bud that's thinking about opening. You can see the orange popping through. It won't be long till we'll have a pretty orange Mexican flame vine bloom. I just clipped a little bit out of this next pot I'm going to show you to make it look a little neater in this one pot, but in actuality practically every pot in my garden needs some of that shaping up and sprucing up a bit. But it's kind of like one of those things where it doesn't look like it's going to happen this week, and next week doesn't look good either. So I have no idea when I'm going to get around, or if I'll get around to sprucing things up, or to having a little, I call it the end of summer finale for the garden. I do like to have that, because it's just seems like such a waste of all this if somebody doesn't get to have a little special enjoyment out of it before it's all gone. But I do, like I said before, I'm trying to do a DVD for my sister who's hosting our annual Thanksgiving family reunion, and she told me, Nancy, I think we should have a movie for our 25th year. So, you know, it's hard to tell her no anyway, because she certainly hasn't said no to work. How would you like to host at least 100 people every year at your home for Thanksgiving? And of course Christmas is right after that, and if I know my sister, she's into Christmas as much as I am too, so she will also have another big job as soon as she gets Thanksgiving put away. Have any of you, do you work with the iMovie program on the Mac computer? Because I do. That's actually how I do my my posts for YouTube. And I feel like I do have some kind of talent for it. I actually feel like the Lord just helps me with them because I pretty much go in blind. And my first section of the movie came out fairly easily, not easily, but fairly easily, and I just smiled my face off because I just knew that she was going to love it. I can hardly wait for her to see it. But I've got to do the second part, and yesterday I spent all day on it just looking for pictures and putting them in. It's a hard job just looking for old pictures. And you know, I was just thinking, I don't know if I've ever heard Rosie whine. I guess I got all of that, the whining ability in our family. So, because you know that I whine if I'm not feeling well, especially whine loudly if I'm hurting really badly. And I whine if I'm not getting stuff together that I want to get together, but I'm not able to get myself together enough to get a job done. So I whine about that. Pardon me just one moment here. I've got to get a little sprig of grass out, and I didn't get the root, so I'll be back. But there's so much of that stuff I need to be doing. I don't think somebody that doesn't do this on a daily basis has any idea how much work goes into it. And even though I'm not doing all the work I need to do, I'm looking at it and realizing I wish I had the time to get out there and do that. But as I was making or looking for pictures for my movie and trying to get some ideas formed in my mind to make a storyline behind the pictures, I got whining, and I thought, you know, everybody else is out living their life, and here I am trying to find pictures of our past life. And actually my nephew is wanting us to come for he's going to have a fish fry, and he has a pool, so they're going to be inviting us all out to that. And a part of me would like to go. A part of me is old, and I'm thinking I'd like to be resting. But the other part of me is like, here I am. I've got to get this other stuff done. I've got to take care of the garden. And I probably won't have time to go. And I hope he understands. But sometimes I wonder if people think I just don't want to do happy, fun things because I'm always doing other things. Because I do, I would like to, but honestly, I also want to do this other, and I feel that I can do it. It's just going to take some time and effort, and it's my goal to do that. I've already made that decision, and so that's what I plan to do. But in the meantime, a bunch of other stuff that I plan to do is just going to have to wait in the garden. And we all know that there's only a certain period you can do things in the garden once the frost comes. And before the frost, I have to cover up a bunch of stuff, take a bunch of clippings in, try to save as much of it as I can through seeds and clippings. And it's just a job in itself. And then I have all this other job that I want to do too. But so I'm whining to you. I'm sorry. I apologize. And that's just me. I don't seem to be able to stop. That's just the way I get through it, is to whine through it. But with God's help, I do plan to get through it. And I hope to have a beautiful movie. For, you know, your past is part of you forever. Even though there's some things you want to let go of as much as you can, but there's also things you want to remember. And these family reunion pictures that I'm looking through now and trying to find are just wonderful, and they're happy memories. My husband, when he first came to our family get together, he said, "Y'all are the huggingest people I've ever seen." And we are, so I'll gladly wear that compliment, or I'm not sure it was a compliment, but I'll wear that badge of honor. But also, as I look through my pictures, I'm discovering that all my great big group pictures, not our individual family pictures, but the whole group pictures, I found only one that was sharp enough that I could use in the movie, because you know the movie, you have to make it bigger, and as it gets bigger the pixels seem to fade out, and these were not in sharp to begin with, so it's pretty much just a blur. You have no idea who those people are, and well, actually we probably do have an idea, but who wants just that? I want to see them sharp and clear. So I don't know exactly what I'll do with that. I may just put in the one that is sharp and clear, let the others go. But I'm not sure. I'll see how it works. I've still got a lot to work on that one, and hopefully I'll get it done. And I don't know, because of the iMovie program, usually it doesn't like you to make them more than 30 minutes because it's hard to download those. So that's why I'm making it in different sections. So I'm not really sure how many sections I'm going to need. It may not take as many as it looks like it's going to take right now, or it may. So here's another, well, first of all, some pretty fall color coming on, but then this is another example of the things I have not got done, because I've told you before that I would like to get, this is a balloon flower, and I would like to get that out and get it planted. It may be a little early for doing that anyway, because it right now is very hot out here. So maybe I'll still get it done. That's one reason I wanted to go ahead and start it now, because I don't want that. I think I've mentioned that before too, but a lot of people work wonderful under pressure. I don't. I do not work well under pressure. Pretty much might as well forget it, because it's not going to get done once the pressure gets going. But before that, when I feel like I have enough time to do something, sometimes the creative juices can flow. So I'm hoping that will happen, and I'm hoping I'll be able to get things done. As I'm looking right across here, and it'll be right in the sunlight, so you may not be able to tell, but these are things I need to do too. I need to clip the old zinnias back and see if I can't get some fresh ones to come on, for one thing. But just because they look so scraggly and ugly, and I would like to go ahead and see if I clip all of it down about halfway, if it would still put on some more bloom for me. I'd like to try that, especially in the back. This is where I planted those little seeds of the chartreuse, rose, hibiscus, and I had several to come up, and I've already had several to die. So I just don't know. It's not looking good for me to get these. They're not totally gone yet, so I'm going to still hope, but so far it's just not happening. I'm not good with starting seeds, especially when I'll have to take it in before it gets very big, if it should even get big at all, if it should even come on up there, besides just sprout and die. But I would love to get these going again. I wish I could get several of them from seed. That would be so awesome. And my poor little petunias in my seed box. That looks horrible. But I'm hoping I can get some of these seed. I'm sure I will, even if I just leave them there and let them die there. They'll burst open and drop down, and I'll probably have them full of petunias. But I would like to go ahead and save some of these seeds so I can sprinkle them around where I need them next spring. But for right now, they just look terrible. those are some of the things I'd like to spruce up in the garden and that truly need it, but they may not get it. Look, my little annual butterfly plant is got big buds on it that will soon open into bloom. But once I stop my whining and just get it done, and I'll play it back, and if I don't love it or feel moved by it in some way, or at least feel like it's a wonderful record of the pictures and the changes in our family, I'll redo it until I feel at least semi-good about it. Hopefully I'll feel great about it. Sometimes that does happen. And then it's worth all the work. It's just worth it all when you have your sister call you and they just start practically crying with emotion, telling me how beautiful it is. That does happen, and I'm so grateful for their acknowledgement and for those records that we do have of our family. I got away from this little pot, but I wanted to show you that this little Peter's Wander that I put in here is looking great. The one on the other side maybe even looking better. But the ones that I predicted would live, there's not one of them. Well, there's this one, but it's not one of the ones I did in the real heat. But it struggled too, as you can tell, because it was hot when I put it in. So, and here's one that's tried right up until now, and I don't think there's any hope for it really, but I'm going to press it back down in the dirt there and see. And that's another thing I would like to do. When the weather gets cooler, it's still just too hot to do that without them struggling enough that I probably would lose them. But when it's cool enough, I do want to transplant some, or actually to clip them off and put some cuttings over here to root for the fall garden. I watered the front garden already today, but I have not watered any of the back gardens, so I've got to get busy. But I did want to get you a post on today. I love this little Tyrinia plant because it's pretty, but also because this is the first time I've been able to get one to last this long and get this big, so I'm very proud of it, very happy with it. I also purchased a few more pots, a couple I think, to bring stuff in for the winter. Some of it's just going to have to be repotted before I bring it in. Look at these little pots. I told you it would go all the way down, but I didn't know it would do it quite this quickly. And back here I can show you some of this beautiful tie-dye Morning Glory. I love this color. It just really pops. And I usually have some of it on my trellises in the front, but this evidently will eventually go back to the plant it was hybridized from, because the one in the front has gone back to just the regular blue Morning Glory, the heavenly blue, which I also love. And as much as you can love a Morning Glory, because you know how they do. Now this one, if you'll notice, the leaf foliage on it is it's not the heart-shaped foliage, and it does not get out of hand as much, or hasn't for me, but it still gets out of hand, goes everywhere, ties up everything else, and puts down a trillion seeds so that you have to deal with it next year. I guess all the wonderful things have their downside too, so let's just think of the beauty today. because there's certainly beauty there. Pretty little rose moss this morning. Not very long ago I cleaned out my pathway, but as you can see, I need to do that again. And I think these little petunias would actually look much better if I clipped them down and they were closer to this little angel in the pot. So I wanted to get around to that, which may not happen either. I'm sorry. I'm doing all of this because I would love to get it done and have it beautiful, but we're just going to have to go around it today and maybe for the rest of the summer, because I'll try to point out the things that I find very pretty and try to just overlook those other things, because I've got to get back in and get back on the movie. And I'm not sure about my periwinkle. These are in the process of curling up and dying, and I'm not really sure why. I have kept them watered, and sometimes I think it's because I use the sprinkler and they get hot they are hot while they're getting watered, and the sun and the heat just doesn't mix. But I'm not actually sure. It could just be that this little pot dries out too soon too, so have to see on that. Let's see if I could get that butterfly over there for you, but he may have flown away. These are some of the zinnias that I am hoping to go ahead and trim back. You can see they're way out of hand tall, and they're actually choking out my dahlias, and I don't even know how many dahlias I have in there, but I have a few. This one is the only one I've seen in bloom. It's looking good this morning. But I think if I would get some of these zinnias cut back and just save these for seed, and honestly I'm hoping that if I cut them back they'll still bloom again, but I know they may not, but they also may, and I have enjoyed these beautiful blooms so much. They're looking ragged though and dry, and I just need to clip them all back and save these for seed and see if the bottom part of the foliage will put me on some new bloom or not. And if they don't, I'll still hopefully be able to save my dahlias, because there are definitely dahlias in there. Besides just these, but these are beautiful. The garden is needing so much attention. There's just so much that's drying and dead and needs to be clipped back. A lot of it's just looking like this, and some people can see the beauty in that too. I've seen beautiful dried arrangements made out of some of this type of stuff. I definitely don't have time for that, and my interest is not there enough to try to do that right now. It might be someday, but not this day. My little trailing white periwinkle died out of this pot, but I did find this little sweet potato vine just growing volunteer, so I put it in there, and it may still become a pretty little arrangement by the end of the season. Right now it's hard to tell for me because it looks like the season is ending, and it is. So I don't know if we'll have a pretty fall season, because we could, but also it could be that a frost will come and just take all the annuals out, so we'll just have to wait and see. The little Henry Eilers Rudbeckia is blooming pretty this morning. Oh, and this little obelisk with sweet autumn clematis or clematis is is also pretty filled out, and it does have bloom coming on. So if it will all bloom at once pretty much and just become a billow of white, I'll definitely try to get that on here for you. It's so close to the end of August and my little calabachoa is still alive, and it's not doing too badly either. It's not filled out like I would love for it to, but it's not doing badly. It's very pretty. And this is the rose moss, of course. This poor little scraggly pot needs some help. It needs me to just totally put new stuff in it. Although this pretty periwinkle, it's still looking good. I would leave that in there. And I would go ahead and leave my geranium, even though it has not done well in this little pot. And there's life in my calabachoa, which makes me happy. One day I'll be happier when I can get it to just billow out and be so beautiful. If that should ever happen. But hey, it's given me hope. When I can get them this long to look this good, I have hope. And then sometimes I think maybe I should just put everything in purslane moss. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? But it doesn't always be in bloom like this. It does in the mornings when the sun comes up. Not the early morning. It likes the sun. But when the sun is up and it brings these beautiful bloom, it's very pretty. Trying to get her little face focused in. There we go. Remember when we last looked at this and I told you it would probably take a growth spurt, and it was down here on this first rung of this tomato cage. There's the second rung. Right there's the third rung, and it's way, well, not way, but it's very much above it. Looking good. Oh, and I saw one of those huge moths on this little, this is a mock orange bush, and it had one of those moths. I'll have to put the picture. I did get the picture, but I didn't, it was gone when I came back to get a little movie clip of it, but I'll show it to you. I'll insert that in when I put this on. Some more pretty rose moss, and we might as well, since we're close to it, look at this little pot again, because look how this strawberry drop coleus is doing. It's so beautiful. It's such a tiny little coleus, but it just keeps on going until it makes a great big beauty. And I can't remember if this is monkshood or I think it's blue lobelia maybe. But it has done well in this spot. It's looking pretty this morning, which is another sign of fall being close, as is the pretty white. These will be little tufts. They're just now beginning, so they're still more of a little bud form, but they will make pretty little tufts. There's some more of that blue lobelia and the beautiful dipped in wine coleus. A little hedgehog that reminds me of my granddaughter Lily Mae, because she has one, a real one. And I'm looking at these pretty red mandevilla bloom this morning. They're looking bright and pretty. We still have not got this. I just pulled these up, but there's many more here too, and I hate this grass or weed right here. It puts this tiny little bloom on it that'll turn to seed and put those all over the place. But anyway, I want to go ahead and get all of this evened out and get our benches raised up. But it has still actually been too hot to try to mess with that. I'm hoping there'll be a much cooler, much better day, but I'm anxious to get it where it looks good. Look at these pretty rose moss bloom this morning. And this pretty orange zinnia has been such a huge little zinnia, and it looks so pretty. And here is where another periwinkle gave it up. You can see there's little seedlings down there though, and I think it may be periwinkle. I'm not sure, and I can't believe this tiny little calabachoa is still alive, but it is. But this is the only one that's really doing well and making a showing for me to look good from a distance even. Look at this pretty coxcomb. I wish it would have grown up so tall, and it's kind of making it look a bit scraggly, but look at that bloom. Nothing scraggly about that. Of course, there's still a bunch of the plume ones here too, which I do love them, I do, but they're also so invasive. I really do need to get out here and get rid of some of them. Look, here's another one of those coxcomb ones, as is this one, a brighter red, more of a tomato red. These little zinnias have leafed up a bit. They still have a ways to go before they actually make a difference in this little pot. And this red is just the red salvia. This is a perennial that comes back every year, and the hummingbirds just love it, as you can imagine. This little plant is reminding me that I've got to get things watered back here in the back, and then I've got to get back to my movie. So wish me luck on the making of our 25th Thanksgiving reunion movie, and please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It's definitely time for me to go in. This little plant is beginning to perk up, but this gardener is beginning to wilt.